It was the first day of school in the small town of Millfield, and the air hummed with the promise of autumn. The leaves had just begun to turn, painting the landscape in hues of gold and crimson, while a gentle breeze carried the faint scent of wood smoke. Millfield High School stood at the heart of the community, a sturdy brick building that had weathered decades of change. Its worn wooden floors creaked underfoot, and the walls bore the faint echoes of laughter and lessons from generations past. Inside these walls, Miss Evelyn Carter had been a fixture for over 30 years. With her silver hair neatly pinned back and her glasses perched on the bridge of her nose, Ms. Carter exuded an air of authority that silenced even the rowdiest of students. She was known as a strict teacher, one who demanded excellence and tolerated no excuses. Her English classroom smelled of old books and chalk dust, a comforting aroma that spoke of years of learning and growth. Yet despite her stern reputation, there was a warmth in her hazel eyes that hinted at something more, a secret she kept hidden beneath her crisp blouses and measured words. This year, a new student shuffled into her class, Jake Thompson. At 16, Jake was a lanky boy with a mop of unruly brown hair and eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world. He slouched into a desk at the back of the room, his worn backpack slung over one shoulder. Jake came from a family teetering on the edge. His father had lost his job at the local factory and his mother worked 2 shifts to keep the lights on. The strain showed in the dark circles under his eyes and the way he flinched when called upon. Ms. Carter noticed it all, the trembling hands, the half-finished assignments, the quiet despair. She didn't confront him outright. Instead, she began with small gestures, a nod of encouragement when he answered a question, a gentle correction when he stumbled over Shakespeare. After a week, she asked him to stay behind after class. The room was quiet, save for the ticking of the clock on the wall as she sat across from him at a scarred wooden desk. "Jake," she said, her voice steady but kind, "I've seen your work. You're capable of more than you're showing. What's holding you back?" He stared at the floor, scuffing his sneaker against a crack in the tile. "It's just hard. Home's a mess. I don't know if I can keep up." Ms. Carter leaned forward, her glasses catching the afternoon light. "I grew up in a house like that too, you know. Money was tight and some days I went to bed hungry. But I had people who saw something in me. I see that same something in you, Jake. Don't let your circumstances define you. You have the power to change your story." Her words hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Jake didn't respond, but a flicker of hope crossed his face, a spark that Miss Carter fanned with every passing day. She stayed late to tutor him, her voice patient as they dissected poetry and prose. She slipped him a sandwich when he looked particularly hollow, claiming it was left over from lunch. Slowly, Jake began to trust her. He shared his dream of college, a dream he thought was out of reach, and she listened with a quiet intensity that made him feel seen. Weeks turned into months and Jake transformed. His grades climbed and his hand shot up in class with a confidence that surprised even him. Ms. Carter's belief in him had taken root, blossoming into a determination he hadn't known he possessed. But it wasn't until one rainy afternoon that he uncovered the depth of her kindness. He'd stayed late to help her organize the classroom, stacking books and wiping down desks. As he reached into a corner of her cluttered desk to grab a stray pencil, his fingers brushed against a wooden box, its lid carved with faint initials. Curiosity got the better of him. He glanced at Miss Carter, who was grading papers across the room, and lifted the lid. Inside was a treasure trove of letters, photographs, and small tokens, a tarnished keychain, a pressed flower, a faded ribbon. Each item was tied to a note written in different hands but all addressed to Ms. Carter. Jake's breath caught as he read the first one. "You believed in me when no one else did. Your support got me through medical school. Thank you, Sarah. Another read. The scholarship you secretly funded changed my life. I'm a business owner now because of you. Michael. And then, I was ready to drop out, but your encouragement kept me going. My daughter has a better life because of you. Emily. The words blurred as tears pricked Jake's eyes. Ms. Carter had been helping students for decades, quietly, anonymously, paying for textbooks, writing letters of hope, offering a lifeline when they needed it most. She'd never sought praise or recognition. She'd simply acted, her kindness a silent force that rippled through the years. He looked up to find her watching him, her expression unreadable. You weren't supposed to find that, she said softly, setting down her pen. Why didn't you tell anyone? Jake asked, his voice thick with emotion. All these people, you changed their lives. Ms. Carter smiled, a rare, tender thing. Kindness doesn't need a spotlight, Jake. It's enough to know it made a difference. But Jake couldn't let it end there. Ms. Carter was retiring at the end of the year, and he knew her departure would leave a void. Inspired by the letters, he rallied his classmates and tracked down the alumni whose stories filled the box. Together they planned a surprise farewell event, a tribute to the teacher who had shaped a generation. The day arrived, crisp and bright, with the gymnasium packed to the rafters. Ms. Carter was led in under the guise of a routine assembly, her brow furrowing as she took in the crowd. Then the stories began. Sarah, now a doctor, spoke of late-night study sessions and a teacher who wouldn't let her quit. Michael, the entrepreneur, recounted the shock of an anonymous scholarship that opened doors he'd thought were locked. Emily, clutching her daughter's hand, tearfully thanked Ms. Carter for giving her the strength to stay in school. One by one, they stepped forward, dozens of voices, each a thread in the tapestry of her legacy. The air grew thick with gratitude, the room alive with sniffles and applause. Then Jake took the stage, his hands trembling but his voice clear. Ms. Carter, you've been more than a teacher to me, he said, meeting her glistening eyes. You've been a mentor, a friend, a beacon of hope. Your kindness didn't just change my life, it changed all of ours. We're here to say thank you. The gym erupted, a wave of sound that crashed over Ms. Carter as she stood, stunned. She stepped to the microphone, her composure slipping as tears streaked her cheeks. I never expected this, she said, her voice breaking. Teaching has been my life's work, and seeing you all here, knowing I've made a difference, is more than I could ever ask for. Kindness is the greatest gift we can give. It costs nothing but means everything. If I've touched even one life, my time here has been worthwhile. The celebration stretched into the evening, filled with laughter and embraces. Jake watched as people from different walks of life, doctors, artists, parents, dreamers, connected over the woman who had believed in them. He felt a swell of pride, knowing he'd helped unveil her secret, not for glory but to show her the light she'd kindled in the world. In the quiet days that followed, Jake often thought of Ms. Carter. Her secret was never truly hidden. It was etched into the soul of Millfield, a legacy of compassion that outlasted her years in the classroom. She had shown him, and so many others, that one person's kindness could break barriers, shift perspectives, and spark a chain of hope that stretched across generations. Her story became a quiet legend, a reminder whispered on autumn winds, that in a world often shadowed by struggle, a single act of kindness could change everything.